Veritas Aquitas by Bones Boy 15, Chapter 1, Beacon. Longest flight ever. A young boy groaned as he knocked his head against the metal interior of the airship he rode in. He crossed his arms over his chest and hung his head when he heard no reply. I never should have stopped for that bowl. Figured those two jerks would run off without me. The teen looked up as the blond boy that wore an interesting armored jacket similar to his own, without the awesome hood and with a different symbol. He noted it rushed past him to the back of the airship with his hands over his mouth. The teen arched his own golden brow while his blue eyes twinkled in amusement. Then again, maybe I'm just not looking on the bright side of things, he said with a snicker. He slid down and crossed his legs in front of him, where they stuck out into the aisle, and interlocked his hands behind his head while he looked up at the ceiling. Still, though, I hope those two aren't trying to kill each other. After all, I need one for pranks and the other for homework. Someone near him let out a small laugh, and he looked over at the amused redhead with the bronze and red armor that revealed her prime physique. He grinned at her and gave her a friendly wave. The girl seemed to freeze for a moment before she shyly waved back. Before he could invite her over or go over to make a new friend, a woman appeared as a hologram behind him. She had light blonde hair pulled back in a bun, a white blouse, and dark skirt. From her shoulders fell a cape that was purple and had almost the devil-like tail coming off of it. Her green eyes were behind the rectangular glasses that rested on her nose. Overall, he gave her a 7 out of 10 on the scaling system. He wasn't into the librarian look. Hello, and welcome to Beacon. The young man stood and interlocked his hands behind his head as he barely restrained himself from jumping with joy. Those words meant this stupid flight was almost over. My name is Glinda Goodwitch. You are among the privileged few who have received the honor of attending this prestigious academy. Our world is experiencing an incredible time of peace. If only that were true, the teen whispered sadly while his left hand reached up to grab hold of the item that hung from his neck. He tuned out the rest of the Goodwich's speech as he looked over his prized possession. The necklace was not important, being a simple cord of orange wire, but the gold ring that hung from it were. They were the wedding bands that belonged to his parents. May they rest peacefully with He was not old enough to remember their faces when they died, but he was but he was told that they were good people who lived to protect, and thus he lived for the same reason. The boy looked up as the hologram flickered away and tightened his grip on the rings. He looked over with reflection and grinned widely at it. The whiskered-like birthmarks on his cheeks spread wide by his smile. His untamable mess of sunny blonde hair was kept under a black hood that protruded from an orange and black jacket that was partially unzipped to reveal a mesh-like undershirt. The jacket had small bits of dark armor attached over the shoulders, chest, and back, with the red and black spiral painted on the shoulders and back. His trusty Stormbreaker gauntlets were fitted around his arms and hands. From the waist down, he wore orange pants that had hidden padding sewn into it. Finally, protecting his feet were his old Academy signature combat sandals, a variant of hunter boots that allowed for more kinetic impact. The blond teen let his rings fall back and rest against his chest before he zipped his jacket up and looked over the view below him. Well, Beacon, I hope you're ready for Naruto Uzumaki. His grin widened and his eyes flashed mischievously. Then again, I kinda hope you're not. He looked up as the blonde from before ran from his corner back towards the front. As the boy passed two girls, they started to freak out about some puke on one of their shoes. Naruto could only laugh. Oh yeah, this is going to be awesome. My idiot senseis are tingling, a young man mused from where he leaned against a light pole on the main walkway into Beacon, while burnt orange hair covered his head and bangs fell down over solid black sunglasses. He wore a dark red shirt and black pants with combat sandals that were required at Khan Academy. Around his waist was an orange belt of fur that twitched occasionally. Rested against his left shoulder under his crossed arms was a black staff that had a ring at the bottom that had 6 small knives dangling from it. He looked over at the airship that came into the dock and smirked. I think he finally arrived. Good for nothing, lazy, hairless ape. Look who's talking, fox boy, another youth said lowly from where he was, perched on the light pole, uncaring as the other growled at him for the name. The new speaker had an angular face and raven black hair. He wore a navy blue high-collared collared and long-sleeved mantle that parted just below his waist to reveal similarly dark pants and sandals that his companion wore. The youth sat up and revealed the red and white fan on his back, perched above his waist, around which was a belt where a solid black sword was clipped. He gripped the light pole's neck with gloved hands and swung down to land beside the red-clad teen and looked at the sunglasses with black eyes. Is something wrong? He asked the red-wearing teenager. The ginger-haired youth let out a growl. Don't call me fox boy, hairless. The onyx-eyed youth eyes flashed. Ah, that's right. You're not a boy anymore. I forgot. You finally went through your, what was it again? Heat? I'm so tempted to drain you dry right now. Oh, come on, guys. Can't you wait at least a day before you try to rip each other apart? The two looked away from one another as Naruto approached them with his duffel slung over his shoulder. Naruto grinned at his classmates and fellow con graduates. I mean, I need to have more than one ally after I pranked that good witch chick. She's just asking for it dressed up like a librarian and all. I bet Hairless wants to tap it, what with his fetish and all. The red-clad teen mused. The two amused boys looked at their raven-haired companion while he scowled at them and his cheeks tinted. I do not have a fetish, he hissed. Sure you don't, Sasuke. Naruto leaned over to the red-clad teen and not too quickly whispered. He's still in denial. Screw you, Uzumaki, Sasuke snapped. I'd quiet it down if I were you, Sasuke. Isn't that how that rumor got started? The red-clad teen asked with a vulpine-like grin on his face. Both Sasuke and Naruto shuddered at the memory and then glared at the one who reminded them of it. If I remember correctly, that was because you started, Kurama, Naruto grumbled. Kurama, as he was named, let his grin widen. I ain't denying it. Unlike Mr. Librarian Fetish, go chase a rabbit, Otsutsuki. Sasuke scowled at Kurama. Kurama's grin never wavered as his red aura began to leak out and he adjusted his grip on his staff. Why don't you make me Uchiha? Sasuke's black aura started to leak out as well, and he grabbed onto the handle of his sword and began to draw it. I'd be glad to. They were stopped from fighting by an explosion that occurred somewhere down the walkway. Oh, boom, boom. So big and beautiful. I wonder if someone got hurt. But that cloud. Let's go investigate, the cheerful Naruto declared as he rushed off towards the stores. Sasuke and Kurama exchanged a look before they chased after their excitable friend. It was never a dull day when one was a friend with Naruto Uzumaki. Ah, another dust accident. No residue or destruction. So lame. Naruto pouted in disappointment as he came across the source of the explosion. He continued to mope while the girl dressed in white yelled at the girl in the red cape. His two friends palmed their faces as they came across his discovery. I figures that's why you'd be disappointed about, Sasuke said with a sigh. He looked over at Kurama when a growl left the teen's throat. What's your problem, fox boy? Aside from that annoying nickname? Her. Kurama glared from behind his sunglasses at the white-themed girl. He bared his teeth, revealing a sharper-than-average fang in place of a human's canine, and growled again. She's a snee. Bless you, Naruto said as he overcame his initial disappointment. Sasuke smacked him upside the head. No, you idiot. The Schnee family is the family most well known for dust mining and the faunus bias. It's damn near slavery, Kurama snapped at the darkly themed teen. They get wages that equal the dangers. The fact it's less than human workers who do not face such dangers but perform more mundane tasks in the office is what's so controversial about it, Sasuke returned coolly as he rolled his eyes. That's what the media wants you to think, Kurama snarled. He scoffed and looked away before the other boy could retort. Stupid, arrogant asshole. Pot, meat, kettle. Have you realized something? You're both black, Naruto drawled as he stared at the two. He sighed and rubbed the back of his head. Man, what am I going to do with you guys? Could you excuse me? A calm voice asked. Naruto turned and looked down at the girl with hair as dark as his friend's. She was dressed in black clothes with a revealing midriff and had a large bow on her head. Naruto cracked a grin and looked at Sasuke. Hey, I found your dream girl. She's practically a female you. Funny idiot. Maybe you should follow our example and get out of her way, Sasuke said as he stepped to the side. Naruto chuckled sheepishly and did as he was asked. Yeah, sorry, miss. The girl walked away without much of another word. She did stiffen slightly as she walked by Kurama, who merely arched a brow in return. Wow, rude much? Naruto asked with a small frown. Then again, he hadn't helped matters with his comment. She's a faunus. Kuruma's observation was softly spoken. He crossed his arms and let his weapon rest against his shoulder, probably irked from being near Shinee. The idiot's comment probably didn't help. For once, we agree. Naruto slumped to the ground and began to draw circles on the sidewalk. My friends are so mean to me. I also agree with the idiot's observation, Kurama added with a grin. That was definitely the female, fondest version of you, Uchiha. While Sasuke dryly glared at him, Naruto perked up and threw an arm around Kurama's shoulder. I knew my right-hand man wouldn't leave me hanging. Of course not. I want to see you drown in your precious noodles. Kurama smirked as Naruto squawked. Blasphemy! Sasuke shook his head and looked up at the largest hall that was in front of them. Come on, I think that's supposed to be a speech or something. We hurry before we miss it. And how do you know that? Naruto asked his friend. Sasuke smirked back at him before he started to walk away with a smirk. Kurama started with a smirking Kurama behind him. Because, idiot, this is still school. Oh crap. I hate it when he's right. Naruto sucked for a moment. He sucked a moment and followed his two friends. Oi, oi, wait up, you jerks! A young man walked around the campus of Beacon, smiling gently as he did. He was dressed oddly, even for most hunters, wearing a pin-stripped outfit. Underneath the green hori with white trimmings. Around his waist was a brown sash that had a simple, if bulky, metal bar clipped to the back of it. Only wooden sandals with straps the same color of his hori protected his feet. His bangs were long enough to reach the top of his torso, the hair silky black, though most of it was pulled back into a white bun holder. When one added his androgynous features, it was hard to tell if he were a boy, which he was. He despised it so, but it was a fact of life and he had come to accept it. That he accepted it didn't mean he had to like it, though. With a soft, complacent sigh, the feminine boy let his hands rest behind his back and continued his stroll towards the auditorium for the inevitable opening speech. As he rounded a bend, he was nearly bowled over by a young couple, both of which looked to be in a panic. The saving grace, the girl had spotted him and stopped both herself and her companion before they ran smack into him. Ah, sorry. The girl, a short thing she was for a 17-year-old, apologized to him. He looked a moment to quickly assess her build. What? He was a healthy teenage male. He could look if he so wished. She was a petite girl dressed in black clothes that were accessed by red to match the red cape she wore. Her weapon was in the compact form, much like his own, and hung from her waist. Her skin, again like his, was a pale white, and her eyes were an interesting silver. Her hair was short, dark, and, like her clothes, had red highlights. It's no problem, he answered after he finished his quick moment of appreciating her modest bust. Again, healthy teenage male. The androgynous male looked at her companion when he asked his next question. Why are you two in such a hurry? The blonde teen, built far differently from himself, was an inch or so taller than he was, with broad shoulders and a good physique. His armored clothes looked rather hastily thrown together, a mess of colors that would do well to conceal him, but it was the weapon that drew his attention. The sword and sheath were infamous and easily recognized. They belonged to an arc. Interesting. We're trying to figure out where the auditorium is, the boy said. He sounded rather young. A hand was thrust from the blonde and a small grin was on his face. John Arc, nice to meet you. And I'm Ruby Rose. The cute girl in red added her own hand. He took the Ark's hand with a smile, and after he shook it, took Ruby's in a gentler but firm shake. The pleasure is mine. I am Haku Yuki. So, you wouldn't happen to know if we're supposed to be anywhere, do you? John asked awkwardly. Haku supposed the boy was trying to determine whether he was a male or female. Haku had to admit this was the one boon that came with being androgynous. Well, that and all the female admirers. Girls were strange, but he wasn't complaining. Taking pity on the two, Haku smiled gently. Yes, there's bound to be an opening ceremony or speech of some sort in the auditorium. I was just about to head over that way. Would you like to join me? Please, yes. Haku smiled and let his hands fall behind his back. Wonderful. I always enjoy making new friends. This way. I smell maybe one or two other faunas here aside from the femme Sasuke, Kurama said lowly from his place on the wall in the back of the auditorium. He ignored the glare from his dark-haired companion and sighed softly. So much for being a faunus-friendly school. Don't worry about it, buddy. You still got me and Sasuke, and so long as we stick together, nothing can stop us. Naruto grinned as he let his hands interlock behind his head. Sasuke dropped his glare and stared at the blonde member of their trio dryly. What did you do? Naruto looked hurt at the question and placed his hands over his chest. Sasuke, my friend, how could you be so cruel to suggest that I would step out of line and perform some sort of delinquent act of mischief? I'm hurt. Sasuke merely stared at him for another minute before he looked at Kurama. So what'd he do? Oi! Kurama ignored Naruto's outrage and let a small grin cross his face. Well, I promised I wouldn't tell. I didn't even do anything yet, Naruto protested. Sasuke, like Kurama, ignored the blonde. Why should what should I prepare for? The rubber chicken incident or something along the lines of the eraser scheme? The guys aren't even listening to me, are you? Meh, more like the lukewarm war of Class E. That bad, huh? Naruto crossed his arms over his chest and pouted. You guys are literally the worst friends imaginable. Why don't you go try to make better friends then? Sasuke asked. Well, maybe I will, Naruto shot back. Kurama snorted. You're way too stupid to make new friends. Naruto opened his mouth to retort, but went quiet as the lights dimmed and a gentle clearing of the throat came through the microphone. The three turned to the stage to see Glinda Good Witch and a gray-haired man that was easily 3 or 2 inches taller than her. He was dressed sharply, with a green scarf around his neck, and had a cane in his left hand as he addressed the students. I'd like to make this brief. Naruto slouched against the wall with a sigh, and by that he means he's going to prattle on and on about his school's prosperity, dignity, and rules. I don't know, he seems to be a bit distracted, Sasuke said as he listened to the parrot headmaster's speech. What he needs to do is back away from the microphone, Kurama muttered as he dug in his right ear with his pinky. The feedback is killing me. And he's done. What? Seriously? Naruto snapped his eyes open and gasped as he saw the man walk away while Goodwitch stepped forward. Damn, why couldn't our school assembly be that quick? Gather in the ballroom tonight. Tomorrow, your initiation begins. Initiation? What is this, a cult? Kurama asked slowly with a hint of amusement. Sasuke shook his head and stepped away from the wall towards the auditorium doors. I wouldn't be surprised. Come on, let's go find the ballroom so we can claim a place to sleep. Right behind you, Naruto said as he followed his two friends. He turned and caught sight of the same girl from his airship. She noticed him and gave a quick wave that he reciprocated with his usual grin plastered on his face. Naruto turned back to his friend as the sea of people obscured her from his view. Shame too, it was a nice view. Segregated sides. Where's the fun in that? Naruto asked with a frown as he walked over to the far side of the ballroom with his pack and stepping bag. He dropped his stuff on the ground and began to prepare for bed, which for him was rather easy. Remove all clothes save for the unmentionables and throw on a pair of shorts. With no shame at all, Naruto stripped. It was hard to feel shame when one was raised mostly by themselves or was influenced by certain unique classes offered at Khan Academy. After all, hunters and huntresses had to be able to adapt to any situation at any time. It didn't hurt that Naruto noticed the few girls had paused to admire his build. That was just a coincidental bonus. Oh, whoa, Uzumaki, am I gonna have to get some lean out for that show? Kurama asked with a smirk as he walked up to the blonde. He changed from his clothes into red pajama pants and a white tank top. His sunglasses had been replaced with a black sleep mask that had a red fox on the front. The fuzzy belt was still wrapped around his waist. Naruto smirked back at his friend and played with the hem of his running shorts. Well, I'm not opposed to making a bit on the side. We shouldn't have never let you go to that club with the Toad Sage, Sasuke grunted as he dropped his stuff on the blonde's other side. He had changed from his armor into a modest yakuta with red and white fans decorating the material. A plastic green card smacked him in the face and Sasuke glared at the snickering Kurama. Dude, Naruto frowned in mock amusement. He gestured to his well-developed torso. I'm the eye candy here. Give me some of that. Ah, but he's the one that they all want to strip, Kurama countered as he pointed at the girls who had glued their eyes to Sasuke. The ribbon-haired boy grunted in annoyance and tossed the lean hard at Naruto, who yelped as the currency smacked against his right pectoral. Sasuke turned and began to walk away, a small bag in his hands. If you peons will excuse me, I need to go prepare for bed. Of course, oh glorious one. The two chimed back boisterously and obnoxiously. A sole finger was raised back at them without any other to accompany it, and the two troublemakers burst into laughter. What's so funny? The voice made the two look up and promptly burst into more laughter. He's, help, help me. Naruto fell to his knees while he held his gut and laughed at the boy who had been emptying his stomach onto the airship floor. He was dressed in a set of light blue footy pajamas. Wow, man, and I thought you looked stupid when you went to bed back in the day. Kurama agreed as he overcame his laughter. He faced the confused blonde with the white grin on his face. What are you wearing? Pajamas, duh. The response made Naruto laugh harder. Kurama, however, shook his head and grabbed his bag. No, you're not. Come on, man. Even I'm not cruel enough to let you stay in those. The boy frowned. What's wrong with my pajamas? How can you even see me? Tricks of the trade, PJ. Kurama grabbed the blonde's shoulder despite the protest and dragged him towards the bathroom. Back in a bit, Uzumaki. Don't do anything stupid. Naruto couldn't retort because he was still in the midst of dying from laughter. Excuse me? Sasuke stopped as he walked away from the bathroom back towards his chosen bed. His brain shorted out as his eyes fell on possibly the most beautiful girl smiled at him. She was dressed in a sleeveless pink yukata that covered her modestly with a black choker around her neck. The girl's smile was gentle, much like her features, and she nodded her head slightly. Sorry, but I was just on my way to bed when someone handed me this bag. I believe it was yours as well. She trailed off as her eyes went to the fan on his back, and then the fans that decorated Sasuke's yukata. Damn it, Sasuke, do something, say something, anything. Sasuke mentally reprimanded himself. If he had full control over his body, he would have promptly palmed his face when all that came out of his mouth was a smart and witty, Sasuke, you're a damn failure. She let out a soft laugh that sounded like tinkling bells before she set the bag in his hand and bowed slightly to him. Good luck tomorrow and have pleasant dreams tonight. Sasuke could only stare as she walked away, unable to trust himself to say anything other than something stupid despite the fact he so dearly wished to know her name. He was stuck like that for some time, silently berating himself for acting like Naruto, making a fool out of himself in front of probably the most beautiful woman he'd ever laid eyes on. Good night. The sudden jeering from his stupor nearly gave Sasuke a heart attack. The cause of said near heart attack was a girl that only came up to his chin in height. Unlike the goddess he'd just seen, this girl leaned more towards the cute side. Her hair was orange like a certain annoyance he knew. Elsewhere, Kurama sneezed, and she wore a pink pair of shorts with clouds and lightning on them, along with a gray shirt that had the word "boop" in pink across her chest. It was rather distractive, really. Yeah, Knight, I'm sorry. Why are you standing on my feet? Sasuke asked dryly. The girl beamed a grin at him. So I can do this? She poked him on the nose as she was prepared to do. Boop. Right, well, it was a pleasure to meet you, Nora Valkyrie. Nora, but I really should get going and... Hey Ren, come here and check out this guy I found. Think he makes good pancakes? Sasuke stared at the strange and very loud question that was distracted at the young man that approached him. He had hair similar to Sasuke's own, but had a long strand that was a hot pink. He seemed to give Sasuke an apologetic look before he directed his gaze to the eccentric Nora. Nora, come on, it's time for bed. But I was just getting to know Duck Butt. Sasuke's eyes twitched. No, he would not let that name start again. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. Nora looked at him with wide eyes before she stepped back from him and put a finger on her lips as she looked him over. Fancy, you must have access to the best maple syrup. Sasuke groaned as the girl began to prattle on about syrup of all things, and she seemed to cut him off whether he tried to walk away. What fresh hell was he doomed himself to? Must resist. Stupidity, impulse. Naruto mumbled to himself as he played with the paddle ball he brought for such an occasion where he'd be left to his lonesome with the strict orders of not doing anything stupid from Kurama. His gaze went over to his bag where a rubber chicken's leg was visible from the zipper. Sweat poured down the right side of his face as he looked back at the paddle ball that was now a blur. Not resisting. Well, he needed to prank something, someone, anyone. He needed to make someone laugh even at the cost of his own social standing. Oh, not you again. Two voices called out in annoyance from the girl's side. Naruto stopped his paddle ball and beamed. Thank you, you great and powerful bastard, you. He vacated his seat and quickly made his way over towards the source of the noise. What's your problem with my sister? She's only trying to be nice. She's a hazard to my health. Naruto moved silently through the dim lighting to stand behind the loud girl, dressed in white. He pulled out his trusty never-fail orange duct tape and prepared to strip that was long enough to go over a person's face twice. Before the girl in white knew what happened, Naruto had taped her mouth shut. What? A prank didn't have to be elaborate, planned out all the time. It just had to be a surprise. The girl sneezed, or something along those lines, let out a muffled shriek while the other three stared at the scene for a moment. The buxom blonde, who Naruto did look over twice, became harmonious, and the younger looking girl both burst into laughter, while the femme Sasuke let out an aggressive, aggravating sigh. Well, I think we can all learn something from this. Naruto grinned as the buxom girl let out a snort of agreement. He put a hand on the sneeze's shoulder and gave her a grin. Don't worry, it'll wear off in about an hour or so, and it won't leave a rash. I think. The girl's eyes went wide and she dashed off towards the bathroom. Naruto turned back to the amused duo and the slightly amused femme Sasuke. He gave them a small grin and whispered to them conspicuously, "It won't leave a rash, but there might be a permanent lipstick for a few days." That's so evil. I love it. The buxom blonde grinned at him. I like you, Whisker Boy. Named Yang Xiaolong. This is my little sister, Ruby. Ruby Rose, the younger girl Ruby corrected. She gestured to the disguised faunas that seemed to be annoyed with them. And that's Femme Sasuke. We've met. Naruto grinned at the girl while she stared at him blankly before she shook her head. Blake Belladonna. I'm still gonna call you Femme Sasuke. Naruto grinned at her cat-like yellow eyes narrowed. To annoy the stoic was one of his many reasons for living. He held his hands up defensively. Kidding, geez. No need to be so mean, Belle. Blake, same difference. Naruto shrugged and intertwined his hands behind his head, completely forgetting that he was still shirtless. He was reminded of the fact when Ruby's face gained some color and Yang gave him an approving once-over, his grin still on his face. Naruto dropped his arms and slipped up between the two sisters. So, you want to end this day with a Yang? Because I know I do. Yang smirked back at him and playfully wrapped her arms around the back of his neck. Elsewhere, Kurama, who had just finished helping his new acquaintance, John, arc froze in pale. Oh no, I had always hoped that the possibility was too high. Likewise, Sasuke, who'd somehow managed to get Nora to shut up about pancakes for 5 seconds so her friend could properly introduce himself, did the same. Dear Om, help us. My worst fears has been realized. Unknown to the two, they spoke their next words at the same time in the same amount of horror. There's two of him. I'm up to breaking a few rules if you're our Whiskers. First, you gotta tell me, do the carpets match the drapes? Yang's breathy question made Naruto grin widen. Depends. Do yours? Yang's grin widened as she leaned in and not so softly whispered, let's find out together. Ew, Yang, gross. Ruby couldn't take it anymore after she turned into a prime example of a tomato. A glance at Blake showed that she fared no better with her faint blush across her nose. Both Naruto and Yang broke into wide grins and then laughed loudly as they pulled away from one another. Yang smirked at her younger sister once she'd recovered from her laughter. What's wrong, Ruby? Jealous? Yang's smile widened even more as Ruby's face turned a shade darker. Oh man, their faces. Too good, Naruto snickered out. He held his hand out towards Yang. That was awesome. You're a natural prankster, Yang. Sorry, I never introduced myself earlier. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. End of chapter 1.